All right, welcome to week two, assignment four, part two, recipe costing, sustainable purchasing and cost control. In this one, we're going to be learning how to use the recipes that we took from our standardized recipe card for assignment four, part one, and now costing it out on a costing sheet. The costing sheet that is on the portal for you to download looks like this. This is the Art Institute costing sheet that you have. I have a sheet that is slightly different from this. I'm going to show you guys it and how I got to it. The main difference is that this unit cost is not on there because you don't really need it for this. What I've done is I've substituted a cost per ounce column, which is less confusing. It helps you to keep it straight in your mind because now you're not having to jump to a different unit, and this really doesn't serve a purpose for us in this exercise. So this, if you want to use this sheet, you are free to use it. Please do. I want you to use whatever sheet you are most comfortable using. The sheet that I have looks like this, very similar. Here's a tab that shows you guys how I combine them together. You don't have to look at that unless you're just curious. And the final combined sheet looks like this. Also, I've moved this information from down bottom over to the side just so that we can fit more on the page all together, all pretty and such. Now, remember the standardized recipe card from part one of this assignment. That looks like this. That's what it looked like on the other tab when I got done with it. Then this is what it looks like without all this extra stuff. So it's just cleaned up a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut and paste this information onto the final combined sheet that I showed you. And again, I will email this to you guys so you have a blank template for it. So card, and now what I've done is I've highlighted these things because this is what I need to move onto the recipe costing sheet, and that's the highlighted part. So you can see where they have moved to into that section. I do not need the method of procedure, the method of production for the costing part of this. All right, next up, so once we get rid of the highlighted, it's going to look like this with our recipe on there. All right, the first thing I want you guys to do, and this is a little bit different from the AI costing sheet also, is we have our recipe amounts, our ingredient amounts in volume or whatever. What I would like you to do is go ahead and convert everything into ounces. It's because that's how we're going to cost everything out. We're going to cost it out by the ounce, and it's going to make doing the math a lot easier a little bit later on because then you were able to use formulas for everything. So converting this stuff into ounces, we are just simply going to do that. So we're going to express these amounts in decimals again so that we can make sure that we can use the formulas a little bit later on. Half of an ounce is the divide sign. The forward slash sign means to divide. So 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. So half an ounce is 0.5 of an ounce. Make sense? Good. Next, we're moving on, and we're going to do that with everything. So 3 ounces is already at ounces, so that's just going to go forward just like that. Garlic, cloves, minced, 1 clove. All I did was go to Google and ask, how much does 1 clove of garlic weigh? And it gave me this information. So 0.1 of an ounce is what I put in there. That's all I did to find that information. The half a teaspoon of half a tablespoon of thyme leaves is a quarter of an ounce because a half an ounce is half an ounce. Sorry, yeah, and 3/4. So all the math is like that. I've got another PowerPoint that shows how to do, actually it might be in here, that shows how to do this conversion. It's in the Spice Factor PowerPoint, which is about 3 PowerPoints because it's very involved, but it'll show you there's a big section on conversion in there. All right, the red potatoes is 1/3 of a pound. 1/3, remember 3 divided by 4 is 0.75, so that becomes 1.75. But it is pound, so we need to get it in ounces. So 1.75 times 16, because there are 16 ounces in a pound, and that equals 28 ounces. So that is what goes here. All right, the salt and pepper in this are so small that we're going to just measure it as 0 for the time being, and we'll refer back to the PowerPoint on Spice Factor to talk about that. So once the sheet is cleaned up and they're converted in ounces, it looks like this. Now we're going to talk about the next page, which is butter. So I'm going to go to the order guide. that we have right over here. I've opened it up. This is the order guide that we're going to be working with. It has a table of contents. You guys have this on your portal. And then we have all the different pages: fats and dairy, herbs and spices, fresh herbs, vegetables, fruit and vegetables, etc., etc., depending on what you're looking for. These things are grouped on the order guide, kind of like they're grouped in a grocery store. They're going to be arranged kind of like they are in a grocery store. All right, so when we go back to our guide, we're looking for butter. So next up, we're looking for the item cost per unit from the order guide, the unit and the price. So from our order guide, butter, 1 pound case, 30 pounds, $72.60. So I'm going to take this information, I just highlighted it and cut it and moved it over to the sheet and put it right there just so you can see where it is. So we're going to be doing that for everything, but when I enter this in, it's going to look like this. So we're looking at 30 pounds is $72.60. So that's what I need. 30 pounds, $72.60. Make sense? So then I'm going to go back and do that for all the ingredients. And here they all are. I just went ahead and cut and pasted them on here because you guys don't need to watch me hunt them down in the video. Then we're going to move this information over to our item cost per unit. And voila, like so. All right. The next thing we need to do is we need to, I'm going to clean it up because I like to, you guys to see what it looks like. So there it is, cut and pasted, and then there it is, no longer highlighted. So we need to convert the purchased quantity expressed in ounces. So we're paying $72.60 for 30 pounds, but how many ounces is that? This is one of those steps that is not, it's going to make your life a lot easier, I promise. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert 30 pounds into ounces. So if we have 30 pounds of butter, which this is 30 pounds of butter, each one of these is equal to 16 ounces. So this is 30 pounds of butter, this is 30 pounds of butter, or we can multiply 16 times 30 and get 480. So 30 pounds of butter is actually 480 ounces. Easy peasy. Now, the next sheet is I'm going to do what I just did here for everything. So there's a lot of information on this page before I open it up, but you're able to go back and pause the video and study it in detail. I've converted everything here. All right, so half gallons into gallons, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it's a lot of detail, but when we get, I'm not going to go over all of this, but when we get it cleaned up, then we have everything in ounces. All good still? Great. Now we're going to do our first formula on this actually. So to do the formula, part one, we're going to right click and release in H5 and press equals. So right here, we're going to press H5, hit equals. All right, so we're getting ready to enter in our first formula, and we have the steps to do it right here. We're going to right click in H5, which is here, H5, the row on the side. We're dealing with F5, and we're dealing with G5. So what we're going to do to enter a formula, we're going to right click on the square. Then we're going to hit equals. All right, so we'll do our first set of formulas. We're going to left click in this square. We're going to hit equals. Then we're going to left click here. Then we're going to hit the / button. And then we're going to click in G5. So what we're saying is this square is equal to F5 divided by 480, or the price per ounce is the price per case divided by the number of ounces in the case. And then when we get that entered into there, we hit enter, and then we have our automatic math for us. All right. The next step that we're going to be doing is how to copy a formula. Now what I'm doing here is the salt and pepper. I'm taking these out because it's such a small amount. We're going to be using that in the next video. So we're just going to leave that blank for right now for this recipe, and then I'll show you how we fix it in another one. All right, to copy a formula down, what we're going to do in another video because this is just such a small amount. So to copy a formula, what we're going to do is we're going to left click on here and then hit copy. And we can do that by either hitting Control C for copy, or we can right click, hit copy, then click in the square we want to copy it into. So we're going to click in here, left click, and then we're going to drag it all the way down as far as we want to copy. So left click, drag, and now we can either hit Control V to paste it, or we can right click and hit paste. Now it's going to copy the formula all the way down for us. Now right here where it says division, we're going to take that out because when we get ready to do our other formula later, it's not going to let us do that if there's values in there that aren't numbers, that it isn't money. All right. Next up, we're going to do our next formula. So what I've done for the salt and the pepper is I've just put in 1 cent there for that, just to give it some value. So to do our next formula, what we're going to be doing is we're going to left click and release in I5 and hit equal. So left click equals C5 times, which is the asterisk key, H5. So what we are saying is that our extended price, remember extended price is the price that that ingredient costs for this entire recipe. So the extended price for butter in this recipe is going to be 8 cents. So this recipe size, 8 cents of butter. All right. So then we're going to copy the formula all the way down again, just like we did. So we're going to right click, copy, left click, drag to how far we want it to go, and then we're going to right click and paste. And there we have it. All right. Next up, like I said, the salt and pepper, I'm just going to enter in 1 cent for these so that we can do our next set of formulas. There will be a video on Spice Factor, I promise. Now, to auto sum, what we're going to do is we left click here and we drag it all the way down, and then we release. Now, there's a key in the toolbar at the top, the Sigma key, which is right here, and that is the auto sum key. So when I click on it, it's not going to let me do it in the video, but when I click on it, it automatically adds up all of these numbers, or you can just add them up by hand. So the last set of formulas is, once we get our total, so the extended price for the entire recipe is $2.69. We put that over here in our total cost. This set of formulas is very similar to what is in the other video in assignment 5, and it's just entering in the formulas in these squares right here. So the most confusing part of this is the menu price. The menu price is determined by you, the chef owner. This is my recipe for scalloped potatoes. It only cost me $2.69 worth of food. Ingredients to make it. So what am I going to sell it for, taking in mind that I've got to cover labor and those other things in there? I'm going to do some research and look at what other restaurants, similar restaurants in the area, what they're charging for it, and I came up with $8 for that. And I did actually do a little bit of research for that. So the total cost is $2.69. The cost per portion, in order to do this, we're going to click in the square and we're going to hit the total cost. So this is going to equal our total cost divided by our number of portions, which is 2. And then when we hit enter, it automatically does that for us. The menu price, we set ourselves, and it's $8. So our next formula is the menu price divided by the cost per portion, menu price. So menu price, this equals the menu price minus the cost per portion. And then we hit enter, and that gives us $6.65. So our gross profit per portion is $6.65. Last up, the food cost percentage. This is going to equal, our food cost percentage equals our cost per portion divided by our menu price. And there we have our food cost percent. Our food cost percent for this one is pretty low, which is nice. So to see the final sheet done for me, all cleaned up, is right here. I'm going to show you guys. I was going to show you this. All right, I wanted to show you guys this right here, how these cells are linked together. Notice how we don't have anything in the salt and the pepper here, and our total cost of the recipe is $267. Let's say that, oh, wait, I forgot to add this in. Let me go back and add it in now. And let's say that this recipe is going to call for 5 cents worth of salt. So I'm going to enter in 0.05. Now watch what happens when I hit enter. It automatically changed all of these numbers and all of these numbers. This is the beautiful part of linking these cells together. Because when I go in and make a change here, watch, every of the numbers are going to change for me as soon as I hit enter. See, that's the beautiful part of this. Once I hit enter, it automatically adjusts it for us. That is a beautiful part of doing that. I'm going to email all of this out to you guys. Here is a blank template for you to use. So now you can see why I use my sheet, because we can use more formulas and link it all together and do less math by hand. That's the main reason why I like the sheet. Plus, it helps you learn a little bit better. All right, so there's your blank template. I'm going to email this out to you guys. Hopefully this will post by in the morning. You'll be able to see it. Ajax wishes you luck and happy calculating.